Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to learn this chapter number 3 of class 9 Moments textbook. The name of the chapter is Iswaran the Storyteller. So basically what is this story about? The story is about a construction supervisor Mahendra and his cook Iswaran, who is fond of listening to stories, and Iswaran is fond of telling and narrating the stories every evening to his master. So through the story we get a message that we should not get carried off by stories shared by other people or assume them as the reality, because we should apply our own wit and intelligence before we see it with our own eyes. Okay? Like Mahendra was a person who blindly follows or blindly listens to the story told by or narrated by Iswaran, because Iswaran is a funny kind of man who narrates anything to his officer, not officer, but to his master Mahendra, and he thinks that it is real. Alright, so Iswaran the storyteller. One night, Mahendra woke up from his sleep and saw a dark, cloudy form. He broke out into a cold sweat. And was it a ghost? So this is the question. So let's read. The story was narrated to Ganesh by a young man, Mahendra by name. So this story which Mahendra is narrating to Ganesh, this story was being narrated to Mahendra by Iswaran. So who was Mahendra? Mahendra was a junior supervisor in a firm which offered on hire supervisors at various types of construction works. Construction works are going on there. They need one supervisor to check whether the work is going correctly or not, whether the people are working or not. Just this was the work of Mahendra. And where was his work done? In factories, over bridges, dams, and so on. So Mahendra's job was not stable and was to keep an eye on the activity at his work. So his job was not stable, and what was his work? To keep an eye on the people at the work site. He had to keep moving from place to place every now and then, ordered by his head office, because if one construction site he got and that construction is over after 2 3 4 5 years, then he need to go to other place. Then he just need to hustle, move either and thither. Okay, he had to keep moving from place to place every now and then, as ordered by his head office, from a coal mining area to a railway bridge construction site, from there after a few months to a chemical plant which was coming up somewhere. So he was a bachelor, he had no family, he was not married, he was a bachelor. His needs were very simple. He was able to adjust himself to all kinds of odd conditions, whether it was an ill-equipped circuit house or a makeshift canvas tent in the middle of stone quarry. But one asset he had was his cook. So he was bachelor, and wherever the construction site or wherever he got his work, he used to go there. He used to adjust himself very easily to all the odd conditions, because he was convenient and he was used to with this job. But one very important thing, asset means one very productive thing for him, was his cook Iswaran. The cook was quite attached to Mahendra and followed him uncomplainingly wherever he was posted. This cook also followed Mahendra. He cooked for Mahendra, washed his clothes, and chatted away with his master at night. He could view out endless stories and anecdotes on various subjects. So Iswaran was a very chilled person. He used to do all the chores in the house, and yeah, it was all about. And also he used to view out endless stories. He used to read Tamil books. Iswaran also had an amazing capacity to produce vegetables and cooking ingredients, seemingly out of nowhere. In the middle of a desolate landscape with no shops visible for miles around, he would miraculously conjure up means make up, okay, the most delicious dishes made with fresh vegetables within an hour of arriving at the zinc sheet shelter at the new workplace. Now, as we know, this Mahendra was just transferring from place to place. So if Mahendra got transferred to the place where there are no shops like stone quarry as it is given. So this Iswaran used to conjure up. He used to miraculously get up vegetables, different kinds of vegetables, and he used to cook them up. Maybe he carried seeds with him, and then he planted, and then they grew. Okay. Mahendra would be early in the morning and leave for work after breakfast, carrying some prepared food with him. Meanwhile, Iswaran would tidy up the shed, wash the clothes, and have a leisurely bath, pouring several buckets of water over his head, muttering a prayer all the while. It would be lunchtime by then. So Mahendra used to get early in the morning, and he used to have his breakfast, and also he carried some prepared food, which was prepared by his cook Iswaran. And when the Mahendran left the house, then Iswaran would get tidy up the shed. He would wash all the utensils and clothes. He used to complete all the chores, and after completing all the things, then he used to have a leisurely bath, like pouring several of bucket and bathing for so many hours. And he also muttered prayer all the time while he was bathing. It would be a lunchtime by then, and after eating, he would read some. Wait. After eating, he would read for a while before dozing off. Dozing off means slipping off or moving here and there. Before that, he would read books. The book was usually some popular Tamil thriller running to hundreds of pages. Its imaginative descriptions and narrative flourishes would hold Iswaran in thrall. Now, why Iswaran was having the capacity to concentrate on a particular book which comprised of several and several of pages, because that books were thrilling. And if you're reading any thriller book, the suspense is created, and if suspense is created, you wish to read it and get to know what happens at the end. Therefore, he was always thrilled to read the book. And which type of book? Tamil thriller book. This actually chapter is Tamil chapter only. I mean, it is translated in English. His own descriptions were gently influenced by Tamil authors that he. So he also had this technique to make suspense or thrill. Like for example, if I told you one story, there was one witch. She went here, there, and she did this, that. You feel boring, right? But if I tell there was a witch with matted hairs, legs twisted, you like to read some descriptions and all about that particular thing, and that too elaborated. When he was narrating even the smallest of incident, he even narrated the smallest of incident, like that witch wigged at me. She she flipped her head, twisted her legs, twisted hands, and etc. Each and every small incident he used to narrate. He would try to work in suspense and a surprise ending into the account. For example, now here is the example how he narrated the things. So listen very carefully. Yeah, it's too interesting. Although no one is having the capacity of making things like this. For example, instead of saying that he had come across an uprooted tree on the highway, he would say so he would come across and he uprooted the tree. It seems too boring, and it also ends up too quickly, right? So what he will say instead of this: with eyebrows suitably arched and hands held out in the dramatic gesture. The road was deserted, and I was all alone. Suddenly, I spotted something that looked like an enormous bushy beast lying sprawled across the road. I was half inclined to turn and go back, but as I came closer, I saw that it was a fallen tree with its dry branches spread out. So Mahendra would stretch himself back in his canvas chair and listen to his Iswaran's tales uncritically. Like Mahendra used to get scared of his story, so he moved backwards. And also one important thing, that whenever you are narrating something, you should have proper gestures and facial expressions on your face. The place, wait. The place I come from is famous for timber. Iswaran would begin. There is richly wooded forest all around. The logs are hauled on the lorries by elephants. Kept on the lorries by elephants, okay? They are huge well-fed beasts. Means elephants are huge well-fed beasts. When they turn wild, even the most experienced manhunter is not able to control them. After this prologue, Iswaran would launch into an elaborate anecdote involving an elephant. So, how he said, one day a tusker escaped from the timber yard and began to roam about. Tusker means elephant, escaped from timber yard means the forest, and he began to roam about, stamping on bushes, tearing up wild creepers, breaking branches at will. Okay, stamping on bushes, like bushes are there like this, so keeping leg on it, ruining the bushes, tearing up the wild creepers. Now see, wild creepers means, creepers are like something very tangled with each other. So elephants would run like this. Elephants are very huge beasts. They would run. They will tear everything. And what happens then? Mm-mm. Wild creepers and breaking branches at will means whenever wished they used to break branches. So how an elephant behaves when it goes mad. Iswaran would get so caught up in the excitement of his own story that he would get up from the floor and jumped about, stamping his feet in emulation of the mad elephant. Okay, when he used to act, the elephant reached the outskirts of our town, breaking the fences down like matchsticks. He would continue. It came into the main road and smashed all the stalls selling fruits, mud pots, and clothes. People ran helter skelter in panic. The elephant now entered a school ground where children were playing, breaking through the brick wall. All the boys ran into the classrooms and shut the doors tight. The beast grunted and wandered about, pulling out the football goal post. Football goal post means the net, tearing down the volleyball net, kicking and flattening the drum kept for water, and approaching the shops. Meanwhile, all the teachers had climbed up to the terrace of the school building. From there, they helplessly watched the depredations of elephant, means all the doings of elephant. There was not a soul below on the ground. The streets were empty, if the inhabitants of the entire town had suddenly disappeared. I was studying in the junior class at that time and was watching the whole drama from the rooftop. I don't know what came over me. Suddenly, I grabbed a cane from hands of one of my teacher and ran down the stairs into the open. The elephant grunted and menacingly swung a branch of tree which it held in its trunk. I stamped its feet, kicking up a lot of mud and dust. It looked frightening, but I moved slowly towards it, stick in hand. People were watching the scene of hypnotized from nearby housetops. The elephant looked at me red-eyed, ready to rush towards me. I lifted his trunk and trumped loudly. At that moment I moved forward and mustering all my force, wagged its third toenail in the quick. The beast looked stunned for a moment and then it shivered from head to foot and collapsed. So, like, he would narrate something in half and he will leave it for the next day. And next day, he will forget to narrate the half of the story and he will start with the new. So, always the creator suspense never ended the story properly. Like, see, it shivered and it collapsed. When elephant will collapse, then what will happen? We know now. They will call some forest people, like, who work in forest department. The people will come. They will tie up the elephant. They will keep him. They will keep, if elephant is injured, they will keep it in a vehicle, and then they will move away and they will free that elephant in the forest. At this point, Iswaran would leave the story unfinished and get up mumbling, I will be back after lighting the gas and warming up the dinner. Mahendra, who had been listening with rapt attention, would be left hanging. When he returned, Iswaran would not pick up the thread of the story right away. Then Mahendra would have to remind him that the conclusion was pending. Well, a veterinary doctor was summoned, means it was called, and it revived the animal. Iswaran would shrug casually. 2 days later, it was led away by its manhot to the jungle. Done. Well, how did you manage to do it, Iswaran? How did you bring down the beast? No, it's quite unusual. He bite his bite or he did something to his toenail and it collapsed. So how did he do that, Iswaran? So it has something to do with Japanese art, I think so. Karate or Jiu-Jitsu. It is called. I had read about it somewhere. I temporarily paralyzes the nervous system. You see, Japanese art and kung fu and all, it paralyzes the nervous system. And if it paralyzes the nervous system, a human being doesn't understand anything for a couple of minutes. Not a day passed without Iswaran recounting some stories packed with adventure, horror, and suspense. This is called thriller. Whether the story was credible or not, Mahendra enjoyed listening to it because of in inimitable way in which it was told. Iswaran seemed to more than make up for the absence of TV in Mahendra's living quarters. Like Mahendra didn't even feel that there is no TV in his office. Why? So in his house, because he was already having Mahendra as the radio. One morning when Mahendra was having breakfast, Iswaran asked, Can I make something special for dinner tonight, sir? After all, today is an auspicious day. According to tradition, we prepare various delicacies to feed the spirits of our ancestor today, sir. So he asked for the permission to cook good food today because it was their tradition to feed their ancestors. Then that night, Mahendra enjoyed the most delicious dinner and complimented Iswaran on his culinary skills. He seemed very pleased, but unexpectedly launched into the most garish account involving the supernatural. Sir, this entire factory. Okay, so they had their dinner, and just while talking with one another, they launched up into most garish account. Means they started discussing about supernatural powers and all. Then from this onwards, Mahendra starts narrating some story, some supernatural types of thing to Mahendra. What was it? So Iswaran says, sir, this entire factory area was we are occupying was once a burial ground. He started. So like he said, sir, this where we are living right now, it was a burial previously, where where the dead bodies of the people were. Oh, where the dead bodies were buried. Just now the aeroplane passed. Okay. Mahendra was jerked where was Mahendra was jerked out of the pleasant reverie he had drifted into after satisfying me. So he suddenly started and he jerked out of the pleasant reverie. He came out of this wonderful dinner and he started telling something else. I knew on the first day itself. He said, when I came over here, I knew from that day only that previously this factory that they are occupying, it was a burial ground because he found a human skull lying on the path. Even now I come across a number of skulls and bones. This were and continued. So look, here is given. One skull is there and this is the factory area. He went on to narrate how he sometimes saw ghosts at night. I am not easily frightened by these things, sir. I am a brave fellow. But one horrible ghost of a woman which appears off and on that midnight during the full moon. So he said sometimes while he is gathering vegetables and all, he came across several skulls of human or human, and he said though I'm not scared of these things, I am very brave fellow, but once I saw a very horrible ghost. It was a woman. She appeared in front of him at the midnight during full moon night. It is an ugly creature with matted hair and shriveled face, like a skeleton holding a fetus in its arm. Understanding how he narrated? Like it was a ugly woman with matted hair. Matted hair means this was the face. Oops. This was the face, and her hairs were matted, very tangled, curly, matted in front of her, very matted hair, and she was very shriveled. Like her face was shriveled, and she holded one fetus in her hand. Mahendra shivered at the description and interpreted rather sharply. So Mahendra shivered, and what he said, he interpreted between it, and he said, "Are you crazy, Iswaran? You are a crazy man, Iswaran. There are no such things like ghosts or spirits. It is all a figment of your imagination. Get your digestive system examined, and maybe your head as well. You are talking nonsense." And Mahendra left the room and retired for the night, expecting Iswaran to sulk for a couple of days. But the next morning, he was surprised to find the cook as cheerful as talkative as ever. So, like this incident happened, then Mahendra interpreted in between. He went to sleep, and he thought that Iswaran to sulk for a couple of days, like he will forget everything after a couple of days. But next morning, what happened? Mahendra was surprised to find the cook very cheerful and talkative as ever, very normal. From that day on, Mahendra, for all his brave talk, went to bed with certain unease. Every night he peered into darkness. Now, when Iswaran narrated this kind of story about the matted women and all, so Mahendra was somehow influenced by that. He was a little bit frightened and scared. He always wanted someone. He always wanted to some companion in his bedroom, but like no one was there, he would peer in darkness outside the window next to his bed, trying to make sure that there was no movement in dark shapes in the vicinity. He was like, in front of him there was a window from where he could look whatever the things are going on outside. But what happened? He always make sure that no one is there in the window, so he could just stare at the window. But he could only see a sea of darkness with twinkling lights of factory miles away. He had always liked to admire a milk-white landscape on full moon nights. But after hearing Iswaran's story of the female ghost, he avoided looking out of the window altogether when the moon was full. Purnima ki jab raat thi, at that time also he avoided looking outward. One night Mahendra was woken from his sleep by a low moan. Morning. Alright, moan close to his window. He heard someone crying close to his window, so he woke up. At first, he put it down to a cat prowling around for a mice. So first he thought, okay, it might be a cat prowling, searching for the mice. But the second sound was too guttural for a cat. Then second sound assured him that it is not a cat at all. He resisted the curiosity to look out lest he should behold a sight which would stop his heart. So first he tried to avoid to go near window, but his heart was not it was not to his heart's content. He wished to look what is there outside the window, but he couldn't. But the wailing became louder and less feline. He could not resist the temptation anymore. Lowering himself to the level of window shield, he looked out at the white sheet of moonlight outside. But there, not too far away, was a dark, cloudy form clutching a bundle. Mahendra broke into a cold sweat and fell back on the pillow, panting. As he gradually recovered from the ghastly experience, he began to reason with himself, finally concluded that it must have been some sort of autosuggestion, some trick that his subconscious mind has played. So when he went near the window, he found no one over there, and he said it might be the trick played by his brain only. And then he saw what is there, but he didn't found anything. He came back and slept. By the time he had got up in the morning, he had a bath and come out to have his breakfast like a normal days. The horror of previous night had faded from his memory. So whatever the horror he had at the last night, it was faded. Like he forgot everything. And Iswaran was very cunning man. He greeted him at the door with his lunch packet and his bag. Just as Mahendra was stepping out, Iswaran grinned and said, "Sir, remember the other day when I was telling you about the female ghost with a fortress in its arm? You were so angry with me, imagining things. Well, you saw her yourself last night. I came running to the sound of moaning that was coming from your room." So again, he remembered this kind of thing to Iswaran, to Mahendra, and Mahendra was like too furious at him. A chill went down Mahendra's spine. He did not wait for Iswaran to complete his sentence, and he hurried away to his office and handed his papers, resolving to leave the haunted place a very next day. So he asked for his transfer to other place because he didn't want to live at that place anymore. So this is by R.K. Lakshman. Okay, Iswaran the storyteller by R.K. Lakshman. Okay, so very beautiful story, right? No. So now within 4 minutes, let's discuss the question answers. In what way is Iswaran an asset to Mahendra? So Iswaran is asset to Mahendra. He cook his food. He what? He's asset because he cooked the food for him. He narrate the story. Doesn't make Mahendra feel bored and all and all. How no? So how does Iswaran describe the uprooted tree on highway? So you have to write it was a big bushy beast and it was lying on the black road. It was a full moon day night. No, full moon night actually, and branches were spread like matted hair of a woman. And you can write anything, but you should write what Iswaran described, right? Not in your own words. How does he narrate the story of Tusker? Does it appear to be possible? So one Tusker came out of the timber and stepped in the school ground. You can explain everything. Why elephant? Alright, Tusker means elephant. Why does the author say that Iswaran seemed to more than make up an absence of freeway? Because he could make Mahendra feel time pass. He could do time pass of Mahendra and all. So Mahendra calls ghost or spirits figment. So Mahendra, he called ghost and the spirit figment of imagination. What happens to him or full moon night? Can you think of some other ending of the story? So this is like we are all done with the stories. Here are some suggested readings if you want. If you are fond of reading stories, you may. So hope you like the chapter. Bye.